is a partner of mine in our peer-to-peer group through the APTA PPS, right? They have the peer-to-peer network, and Cliff's been a part of our mastermind for what, a couple of years?
I think it's been about 2.
Almost 2 years. Yeah. And so in our most recent mastermind meeting, he was talking about what we're going to talk about today, right? And it has to do with marketing. Maybe Adam and I could help you, and let's make it a Facebook Live event. So let's share that with the world, because what we're going to be talking about today, I think, is applicable to most all outpatient clinics. I don't know who wouldn't benefit from this, but in terms of one of the weaknesses of most PT owners is what we're going to talk about, and that is building out a marketing strategy, right? And really looking at it in terms of structure and how to apply the appropriate energy and money to the various possibilities that we have out there. So let's just get into it really quickly. I mean, Cliff, you have a relatively new clinic over the past couple of years in Pennsylvania, just outside of Pittsburgh, right? You just built an amazing new home, and you have a beautiful young family, all those good things. But just to kind of cut to the chase, what are you dealing with right now in your clinic that is a quote unquote marketing issue?
Yeah, the big departure for us is our internal marketing manager. I hired a person who was just out of college. Actually, it was a little over 2 years ago now. When I'd hired him, I knew from the start it was going to be kind of a hybrid role, because we're still kind of in the startup mentality, at least. You know, we've grown a lot. We've actually have 10 physical therapists that work for us, but we're still, this entrepreneurial kind of startup phase, at least in my mind. And we need to have some people do different things and play different roles and wear different hats. So I'd hired him to do some front desk things initially, and also to do some organic posting and content creation. And he, like I said, he was just out of college, but he, through college and even into high school, was a professional photographer, getting paid to do, various things, not just like weddings and that kind of thing. He's a good photographer. So I was like, oh, he's got a creative side. He would do well, at least in parts with our social efforts and that kind of thing. So anyway, he stepped into that role. He's done a great job. His role has certainly evolved and changed. And now he doesn't work at the front desk anymore. Well, hadn't worked at the front desk any longer. But he gave me notice about 3 or 4 weeks ago, that his last day is this upcoming Wednesday. So we've got a little less than a week of his time left until he moves on to something else, which I'm excited for him to do. I think it's going to be a good thing for him, good move. But regardless, we're in a situation now where we're trying to reconceptualize our marketing strategy and our marketing efforts, and understand that this really is an opportunity for us to do things differently and become more effective at what our intention is, which is to draw the right people to us and have them understand how we can help them. So that's kind of where I'm at, is going back to, and I worked through some of this thing, although I'm really excited to hear the two of you's perspective here, but going back to the drawing board and thinking about what it is, what our order strategy has been, what is the function and the idea behind our strategy, and how we can then leverage what we've done well in the past, but also look for new ways to become, like I said, more effective at our strategy.
Great. And Adam, I'm going to turn it over to you here in just a second, because I know you want to get started and jump into it. But let me first congratulate you on number one, hiring a marketing person from the get-go. For those who don't know Cliff, he's a young practice owner that's not practicing in his clinic full-time or much at all. Right?
I haven't seen a patient in probably 5 months or something like that.
And I think a lot of that is mindset. This is a smart guy. He's got a great business mindset. But number two, you had a marketing person before you opened your doors.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
I mean, how rare is that? I haven't heard of it, right? Honestly. And I think that that's a tribute to your success. You have a number of providers already. You've got a decent patient load. You have a steady clinic. And I think part of it is because you were forward thinking enough to say, I'm going to hire a marketing person first and get some people in the door. So that's number one. Number two, I congratulate you on taking the opportunity here to not just shelve your marketing systems for now until you find your right person, but to reach out and be willing to talk to us about, okay, where should I start? I mean, have you ever had any like consulting or coaching on a marketing program?
Yeah. So just to take a step back from where you were saying, so I didn't hire this person. He was, I think, maybe hired about two years into our business being open. So he wasn't.
Oh, okay.
But I did have, for the year, we were kind of going through a big build out. Out of the gate, we built a 5,000 square foot building. This was our first clinic, which was kind of a risky business, but thank God it worked out. Regardless, so as construction was going on for about a year, I consulted with a independent consultant, marketing consultant, who helped me rethink about how to tell a story, how to attract patients, how to attract the right patients. He was really, really immensely helpful in that whole, kind of just getting out of the gate phase. In that same role for about another year after we had opened.
So whether it wasn't necessarily this guy who just put in his notice, but you hired marketing consultant a year prior to opening, which is, hey, kudos to you. That's great. And I wish more people would do that. So Adam, where do you want to start on this?
Man, I don't know.
Oh,
I think I would just like to just start with a few questions, if that's all right. So Cliff, I get a sense, and I could be wrong, but I get a sense that you kind of have somewhat of an idea of what your ideal scene looks like. Like, maybe you don't have all the specifics and the operations all built out, but like, if you can kind of dream with me for a second, like, let's just pretend like we got all that figured out. Like, what would the ideal scene for you look like?
From a marketing
standpoint, tell me more about that. Like, what's your vision? Like, share that with me.
Well, this has been my vision from the jump, and the reason why I wanted that consultant to help me out early on was, even prior to opening, I was managing a private practice in Seattle prior to moving back to Pennsylvania and starting this practice. And even in that role, it never really seemed to make sense to me why the only employed strategy in that company at the time was to market ourselves, our services, to doctors' offices, surgeons, PCPs, etc., rheumatologists. And I'm not saying that should not be part of or a component of the strategy, of the marketing strategy. But truthfully, I didn't, just for some perspective on that, I didn't step foot into a doctor's office as the representative of Wonsettler Physical Therapy until we were open for about 2.5 years. And that was not like, I'm above and beyond I didn't have the mentality that I was better than thou, or that was not something that I felt like could be beneficial. But marketing directly to the people that should be making the decisions, which is the patient, was always something that just made very common sense to me. And I feel like, at least from the physical therapy world perspective, that's not as common of a strategy as it should be, in my opinion. That's just my opinion. But I think that's changing. But that's I would say, if I could try to, in a nutshell, describe what I really would want to happen, and what we've tried to work at up to this point, is to use mediums that make sense for where the people that are most receptive to the help that we can provide, find those people and talk to them in ways that make sense to them through mediums that make sense to them, and help them understand how we can solve their problems. So most of our efforts up to this point have been within that kind of that lane.
Um, Tell me why you feel so strongly that, by the way, I don't disagree with you. I'm just interested. Why do you feel so strongly in you have a passion, if maybe that's not the right word, but you got some strong thoughts or opinions about why marketing directly to the patients are really important.
Mhm.
Why?
Well, the why would be that they are the person that is going to receive the service. They're the people that need our help. The doctors, it's not like they don't need referral sources for physical therapy when they have a patient that is indicative of such, but the people that we're trying to serve are the patients. At the end of the day, they're our customers. Those are the people that we should care about beyond any, care more about than anyone else. And so talking directly to them before they're ever an actual patient of ours, through marketing efforts, through, a lot of different ways is the why for me, because I want to understand their biggest worries and fears and obstacle concerns. I want to understand what they're chasing after, what their ambition and intention and goals are. And what better way to find that out than to ask, than to speak to and engage with them around those questions and concerns. I don't really feel like a good strategy in terms of finding out what patients need is hearing from the doctors on that. Not that they don't have something, just like you guys wouldn't have something to offer. You have insights. You worked with a lot of patients. Obviously, our physicians have too. But we see things differently than a patient, and that's how it goes, right? So I really wanted to know how to answer those questions so that I could more confidently speak to our ability to be able to deliver on the promise that I really am confident in our ability to do so. But in order to be able to communicate that effectively, I knew I needed to ask the right questions and engage in the right ways.
Well, I think what you're saying is you know who your ideal client is. Like you have that avatar built out, right? And so in order to find those persons, you are strategically looking for their watering holes, if you will. Where do they congregate? Where do they exist? And also, what are their concerns and what are they hoping to see in their physical therapy clinic? And the cascade that happens from there is if you can talk to them, if you know your ideal client and you can speak to them and then you can capture them, then you're already aligned. They're going to more likely know, like, and trust you. And then they're going to be more likely to refer friends and family after that. I mean, if you can, but it starts at the top. You have to know who your ideal client is, and then speak to them, and then all those things kind of fall into place.
That's exactly right. Yeah. We're good story about that. Literally just today, about 2 hours ago, something we do in our clinic is before anybody gets on the schedule, they talk to a physical therapist on the phone prior to being scheduled for their evaluation. Well, I used to handle 100% of those calls. Now I handle very few and far in between, but I'll occasionally do one. And our front desk said, this doctor who's 3 times over wants to become a patient. She's got this issue, and I've never met her. I've seen her name come across. I've never been into her office though either. But she's had so much positive feedback from her patients going back to her and saying, these people are amazing. That when she had an issue, she called us. And I think that's just a testament to exactly what you're just saying, Nathan, which is to say, let the people that are receiving the service be an advocate and a megaphone for your message and your strategy. That's part of it.
Yeah, definitely.
Mm-hmm.
That's cool.
Cliff, you did mention fears, worries, obstacles, ambitions. Do you know what they are?
I think it's different for every single person, right? And there are overlapping themes that we see in our patients and shit. I know. I know you guys knew that too. But the fears are if we're going to talk specifics, the fears, in blanket terms, are always related to the worry of the future of what if, and then fill in the blank negative. What if I can't X, Y, or Z? What if I can't, it's always around what might be taken away from somebody in terms of freedom to do what they want to do, to live life on their own terms, the way they see it, the way they want to see it, the way they want to be, who they want to be, in terms of their physical capabilities, in terms of their freedom, like I said, to move. So our ability, whether it's on the phone or they're ever on the schedule and throughout the evaluation and every subsequent visit until they climb their mountain, is to understand more and more deeply what that specific fear is for that individual. And once we uncover it, we all know, you guys know this, once we get to the bottom of it and that person says, well, it's we start peeling back the layers of the onion, because initially they say something like, I just want my neck pain to go away. Well, what would that look like for you? Well, it would mean that I wouldn't be able to, I wouldn't have all these difficulties sitting at my desk all day and I'm typing at work. All right, well, tell me more, and just keep digging on that. And then they finally say something where there's energy and concern and, I guess, authenticity around their response, because they finally say something like, really what I want to be able to do is like play in this adult league baseball thing, because that's my only social outlet and the only time I ever get out, I'll see my friends. And if I can't do that, I'm going to be really sad. I'm going to be really bummed out, or whatever they say. There's a million things out there. But once we discover what that is, that's kind of the essence of what we then can use to intervene and to get back to.
Right. Yeah. So you also mentioned using mediums to essentially like channels of communication or common place, watering holes, right? Whatever, call it whatever. Like people, where do these people hang out, right? Do you have those? Do you know where they are at?
I think so. Yeah, we got Nathan earlier mentioned avatars. We've got 3 different avatars. We've got a Donna, a John, and a Nikki.
Right. So, well, names for them each.
They've got names. I know their kids' names. I know how much income they have. I know how many grandkids. And our team knows that too. So that
okay, that was going to be my next question. Yes.
Language that we can now. I would say, as I say that, I say my team knows that. Well, frankly, I bet we probably hired 3 or so people in the last 6 months that haven't heard directly from me what our avatars' names are and what they're all about. So there's just an opportunity for us to be able to re-engage with something that we've shared with some that haven't been shared with others. So, and that's just kind of a general blanket issue that I have. I'm not a good manager. I think I can see some of the future, and I get excited and pulled into that, but I have a really difficult time returning back to the present day, or even looking back and say, well, what could have been better here, and then managing to an expectation and coaching people up. But that's not what we're talking about. What we're talking about is avatars and communicating those things. So
you know where they're at.
You got to know where they're at, because our one avatar, Nikki, she's a 30-something-year-old CrossFit athlete, and she, again, not to get specifics on Nikki and what her avatar is exactly, but where she's getting information and who she's getting information from is much different than another avatar, John, who's 78 years old and has Parkinson's and, several different aspects of his life, but how he's consuming information, media, his circles, they're all different, right? So, but just the demographics of our particular office, we see close to 40, anywhere between, it fluctuates between 40 to 45% of our caseload is 65 plus, 60 to 65 plus. So a high Medicare population. And one of our strategies, and we've been doing this for the last at least 2 years, is utilizing the radio and newspapers. And I would have never thought that would have been part of what we would have done initially, because I thought dinosaur medium, it's on its way out. I mean, why would we invest and spend money and effort, like I said, doing that or on those mediums? But I tell you what, like we try as best we can to really track really precisely our referrals, our leads, and our conversions, and where those people are coming from. Is, we do things on social media through Instagram and Facebook and some YouTube as well. And I understand also that most people are maybe more inclined to say that they've heard about you through something other than social media, because a lot of people don't like this, like admit that they've been influenced in that manner. But when we ask directly, like, how have you heard about us? And they say, oh, my cousin went there, or my sibling or something like that. And they mentioned one or two names of some word of mouth referral that suggested that they come to us. We asked also, have you heard about us through anything else like Facebook or Instagram or the newspaper or the radio? And invariably, people, when they respond to one of those categories, the radio and the newspaper outperform our digital responses. I'm not saying that digital not do it.
Crazy.
It's like 2 to 1. It's really substantial. And again, some of that's our demographic, but you got to know, to your question, that you got to know where people are at. And with our
avatar,
if you know your avatar, which the other avatar, Donna, she's like late 50s, and she's got a couple of adult kids, and it's not uncommon for her to listen to the oldies station on the way to work either, or for her to pick up the newspaper or at least read it online digitally.
She's not afraid to do that.
No, that's right.
Now the thing is, if you were to tell me that you're still doing yellow page ads, that would blow my mind. I think that actually might be
Craigslist.
Oh yeah, there you go. Yeah. So yeah, I think it's a really important thing, and we're constantly looking at that. But I just really I've seen no indication that it's not continuing to bear real fruit for us and be really healthy and productive in terms of our ability to be able to storytell and attract and attract the right people.
Yeah. So I think what's clear, you are a few steps ahead of what I would say most owners, and when it comes to a marketing strategy. And it starts with, okay, what is your avatar? Who's your ideal client? And you have all the nuts and bolts around that. What is their insurance? How much money do they make? What does their family situation look like? What are they dealing with at home, et cetera? And also knowing a little bit about where their social circles are, how you're going to find them, right? And that's a big part of the beginnings of your marketing strategy.
Yeah.
Yeah. I think, I was going to say, Cliff, it sounds like you're very clear on your avatar and your messaging. You're also clear on the water holes. And you're also clear on what's working for you.
I think, we're gaining clarity. I would say that, we're
never is a moving target.
So is Nathan. And so is all gaining clarity, right? So like, my question is, what is stopping you from taking massive action today? Like, why the hesitation? Like, why not just take with the knowledge that you have and just like go full speed?
My hesitation up to this point, which I think we've finally gotten to where we've got clarity on a decision. Well, I know we've got clarity on a decision and we've got a direction and how to move forward. But my hesitation after the marketing guy internally had given notice was whether or not we tried to outsource a decent haul, a decent amount of that work, or would we try to bring somebody in-house like we have been doing? And
so do you replace this guy with another person, or do you outsource it?
Right. That's right.
So that's the real question, right?
That was the big question for me. Yes.
That's the big holdup.
Right. Well, so finally, just chewing on it, I did decide to outsource. And I'll tell you why, because again, I think I mentioned this earlier in the conversation, but we've only got 15 employees, and 10 of those on payroll are physical therapists, right? So Evan, the internal marketing guy, was not just wearing the marketing hat, even up to this point. I mean, he does some miscellaneous tech help, and he doesn't, I guess occasionally if we've got a front desk person that's off for the day, he'll step into that role. It's not common, but he needs to know how to do that. He helps us with our tech support help with our EMR. He does some data management for us. So he wears a lot of different hats, and frankly, it's foolish for me to expect that anybody can be excellent at all of those different tasks. And his ability to deliver on the marketing side was just continually improving. He was really making progress, and I had hired him a copywriting and content strategy coach to help not only coach him, but coach me. I was on every single meeting with the coach, the consultant. And that consultant really helped Evan come up in terms of his ability to be clear and be a more effective communicator, the look and feel of things, like just a lot of different aspects of our deployed strategy was improved by Mike is his name. And but yet there were certain aspects of the marketing role that Evan was playing that did not come naturally to him, that were a challenge. And again, there's no way that he could be excellent at all those things. So in deciding or trying to determine what was the best course of action for us at this moment, understanding that if you're going to get excellent, you need to have somebody that has that's already doing to some degree excellent work in that area. That's not to say that they're not always improving and growing and they can't be coached and they should be coached. But for us, the decision to not replace Evan and to actually outsource with the same consulting coach I was telling you about before, Mike, he's going to essentially now take a fractional CMO role within our company and overhaul our strategy, really reconceptualize what is our strategy and how we're going to do it. Because he's the same consultant that I worked with for a year prior to open.
Oh, so you have a history.
I've got a history. I've worked with him for 6 years.
Yeah.
Not continuously. I worked with him for about a year and a half, maybe 2 year period. Then we took a couple years off because I feel like we kind of flatlined in terms of what he was expecting of me to do, because at the time I didn't have an internally dedicated marketing person that could execute a strategy. I was still treating patients and doing everything else that an owner does. So I think that, my ability to be able to leverage the advice he was giving and just kind of reached the ceiling. And so I re-engaged with him after we had hired Evan and given him the marketing manager position and roles and responsibility. And so anyway, the decision to outsource to Mike and to bring him on as a fractional CMO became much more clear and apparent that was the right strategy, at least for now, to employ, so that he can, like I said, reconceptualize how we're doing what we're doing and figure out more clearly what's working, what's not, how to think outside the box in terms of generating high quality leads that are going to become patients that are just raving about what we do and how we do it.
Can I ask, and related to that, I would say, I can see where you're coming from. You have the choice of either finding someone who might have some marketing experience, and then you'd have to go through the pain and energy to train them and coach them on how we do things at Wonsettler, and these are our systems. And there's some benefit to that, right? But there's also a huge benefit to having a quote unquote expert just come in and provide their expertise right off the bat. And you're using him fractionally, so part-time, a few hours a week to stay on top of all your marketing systems, right, that are currently existing, and maybe edit some of those and move them around and improve them, right? So there's a huge benefit to them. But for the people who are listening, and I don't want to go down this tangent too far, but if they were thinking, I would love to have a fractional CMO, I would love to have a part-time or hourly chief marketing officer on my team that is an expert. How did you find yours? And just in case people are able to look for those, where did you find yours?
Well, having that history and working with them in a really a consulting role was the first step for me. And the fact that you mentioned this on the patient and provider aspect, but know, like, and trust him, that he is a capable and skilled marketing visionary. And yeah.
Well, where did you find him back in the day before?
Okay. It was just a referral. I got a referral from a friend who he's in electrical contracting, but he had known this guy that I told him, I would love to find somebody that can help me out just with marketing strategy.
Okay. So you used your network.
Yeah, that's it.
You just use your network of other entrepreneurs and business people and like, hey, who do you know out there that knows how to market well? It helps that your friend could vouch for him instead of being like, well, yeah, my daughter just graduated from a marketing degree at so-and-so. And that's not necessarily what you're looking for when we're talking about expertise, right? Like, who do you know that's in the business and has done it well at other places and can be vouched for? So utilizing your network. Yeah, cool.
Yeah. And we've actually, I haven't even mentioned the other, we've worked for the last probably 2.5 or so, 3 years with a different marketing consulting company too, who mostly places our ads. They've built a relationship with the radio station, with the newspaper. They manage all of that for us. They don't necessarily provide a whole lot of high level strategy, though I think they do have that capability within their team. The way in which we've used them is what I just described. But same deal. I mean, ask the question with how do you find them, or how did I find that other group, that consulting group? It was also within my network. A family friend of ours he's on the later stages of his career, but he's been in banking forever, and was the CEO of a somewhat small local bank. I reached out to him. He kind of took on a mentorship role with me. Okay. We had first opened, and I told him, I feel like, we've kind of flatlined in our marketing efforts after, the first year or so being open, and he had connected me to a guy who has been just a tremendous asset for us too. So
yeah, so you got a mentor, you use your network, these people plugged you in and found people that you can trust to take over your marketing. And then also, because many PT owners don't have this number, and you don't have to give me a specific number, but it's really hard for them to take action, especially as they talk to vendors, because the first question that a vendor is going to ask is, what's your budget? Mm-hmm. And deer in the headlights for most PT owners. They're like, I don't know. I was hoping you would tell me, right? Yeah. So as a percentage of your gross revenues, do you have an idea what your marketing budget is, just so people have an idea?
Yeah, we're a little less than 10%, I think. 7-8%, something in that range.
That sounds about right.
It's low 6.
Did you say that's about the same for you, Adam, or are you a little bit less?
Yeah, I think that the goal, like, just like you said, like 7 to 8% is a really good goal. But then, like, long-term goal, we want to try to get that down to 6.
Yeah, 5 or 6.
5 or 6.
And as you're starting a new clinic, maybe that bumps up to
correct
8, 9.
Or if you start a new program, or if you're starting a new something new, hire an OT or a speech therapist or something
temporarily.
Right. To have a new avatar that's built, right? You might have to bump it up.
Yeah.
So, yeah.
So 5 to 6. All right.
Well, I don't mind sharing specifics though, frankly. I mean, I would say one thing to that, and it's every clinic is different. Every owner is different. Every approach, there are nuances based on your area and all of that. The only money that we had spent for the first 2+ years of being open was that marketing consult fee, which it was only $1,000. I think he charged me $1,000 a month. We met, I think, 1, maybe 2 times a month, a couple hours, and he would just it was just coaching, it was just consulting. He didn't really perform any real, he didn't do the actual work for us.
So that was outside of the ad spend that you had.
Well, I had no ad spend, zero.
Oh, not yet. You were just getting set up.
For the first 2 years of actually being opened. So the year prior, we had used his consulting services, but even, day one up to 2.5 years in, we spent no money on ads, nothing on the radio, nothing on the news, in the newspaper, nothing digitally. I mean, we would do our own organic, whatever, but it was all word of mouth growth. But I knew that I needed to start spending money, and I was open to and willing to do that. I just didn't know exactly which direction to go. But we went from like not spending anything to within a couple of months of hiring this second consulting company. I think their just fee for the advice and meetings and whatever was like $1,750 a month. That was $1,750, and then I think right out of the gate, you started spending about $1,200 a month just on the radio with commercials, and then in the newspaper ads. That was also $1,250 a month, and then we started spending about $2,500 a month in digital ads, like from the jump. And then, but it's fluctuated. We're right around that maybe right now. At one point, we were spending up to $5,000 a month because it was growing and things were going well. I'm like, well, it's working. Let's just see how what our upper limit is.
Add some gas to the fire.
I think that's a beautiful strategy. I mean, like,
it's works. Yeah, something worked. Something worked.
Right.
Yeah, I think your numbers make sense there, Adam. And I think that, and the way in which you're thinking about it makes sense. So, if you've got a new initiative, you might need to spend some more. But I think as the snowball continues to grow, the actual ad spend, I would imagine, is going to decrease to some degree, but that's not
proportionally.
Yeah, proportionally, right? Proportionally, but that doesn't mean it ever gets shut off.
No,
it never gets shut off.
Well, we've got about 15 minutes here. Let's get into some nuts and bolts. How can we help him develop this marketing strategy, Adam?
Yeah, well, I don't think so. Obviously, Cliff's a super smart dude.
I fooled you. It's been almost an hour. You should have been able to figure it out by now. That age.
You're good at it, man. I mean, so I don't think that Cliff needs much help with nuts and bolts. I mean, he knows what he's talking about. He knows a lot about marketing. I think really he just needs to. I mean, this is just my opinion, Cliff, or like my experience of you from outside perspective. Like, I just feel like just thinking differently about how you're viewing the whole situation could be useful. One of the things that really stuck out when you were talking was you mentioned, you're seeking excellence, or you're seeking like what's working and what's not working, right? So quick question, how do you define like what's working?
Well, that's been a moving target, frankly, for us up until this point. But I think one of the, just in managing my relationship with Evan and the effort that he was putting forward in our marketing efforts, it was learning how to become very clear on expectations, and also being receptive to and willing to and looking for feedback loops that give you and provide learning where you may not be necessarily clued into looking for them. I say that, but really to answer your question directly, I gave our marketing, the new fractional CMO, one KPI. I don't care how often he posts. I don't care what kind of content he creates. I don't care where he takes us directionally in terms of our content. I care about one KPI, which is up until this point in 2023, we've averaged 70 emails a month. Okay. I told him within 6 months, I want to be at 80 evals a month, because if you're generating high quality leads that are ready for our services and know that we can help them, our conversion ratios are only going to go up. They shouldn't go down. We're converting about 75 to 80% of our leads. Okay. So, I don't think we're going to do a poor job on that. We've got a solid system on how we nurture these and how we try to convert them. But getting to that
Patients.
80,000 a month market or number within 6 months is the clearly communicated expectation for him. But I've got a couple of questions for you guys, because I would love to know how you think about this. So I think that you don't know what you don't know. And there's a lot that I don't know. But the couple of things that I'm somewhat confident in is that the two areas for us that are opportunities that I think we're really missing on. The first maybe not being, in my mind, quite as important, though certainly important, is the follow-up on leads and nurturing those leads over time to help convert them and see the opportunity for us to make a difference in their lives. But maybe the bigger, more leverageable, I guess, base for us is our current and past really happy customers. We don't have like a system where we give those people a megaphone. I mean, we use testimonials and we both, we'll put money behind testimonial videos that we will make internally. But we don't have a great strategy, like a multifaceted strategy on how to leverage that base. So what do you guys think about that? What have you done?
Yeah, this gets me excited.
Okay. Yeah. I'm so glad you said that, because you talked a lot about, you're talking to a lot of the patients that are coming in the door, and you're asking them, how did you hear about that? How did you hear about us? And they're all saying, oh, Betty Joe came here last year, right? It's all word of mouth, right? And so your internal marketing strategy, specifically with your clinical team, is the most powerful thing you could probably shut your ads off for a while, you know what I mean? And like spend 100% of your time training your team how to sell. You would be amazed at how many referrals are being left on the floor.
You're right on that. Yeah.
You know what I mean?
Yeah. Tell me what are some of the...
So a few things. Number one,
can I lay a foundation really quick?
You can,
because I have to say this before we finish up, and it's fun. It's just foundational. So as you're looking at your marketing strategy, we always talk about the 4 buckets, right? There's past patients, current patients, physician relationships, and direct to community. And community includes events and social media, digital marketing, SEO, all that stuff. And that's where you have really strong muscles right there, right? Your digital marketing is great. And so what we're talking about are the first 2 buckets right here, current and past patients. And each of as you're developing out this marketing strategy, you need to have a strategy within each of those buckets.
Yeah, you're right.
Okay. So you have that really clearly with your digital stuff, it seems. I don't know exactly where you are with physician relationships and pulling directly from them, but I mean, that's pretty self-explanatory. We just did a Facebook Live event for those who are listening, and you can listen to a previous episode on that on the Facebook page or on the podcast. But then the cheapest and easiest way to get new patients are exactly what you're talking about right here. It's not going to take you $5,000. You spend $5,000 on talking to current and past patients. That'll last you through the year, if not more. Seriously. And so these people are already know, like, and trust you. So to get them to come back for any new injuries or to refer family and friends takes significantly less energy, significantly less money, but a team approach. And I know that's what Adam's going to get into right now.
Yeah, 100%. The most valuable thing that you can do as the owner is just get your team super aligned, right?
Mm-hmm.
And so,
marketing.
Correct. We measure internal referrals in our weekly team meeting every single week, like number of internal referrals generated as a team and also per provider. And so that's a KPI that we report on every week. So understanding the patient life cycle. So if you can kind of like visualize this for me, like top of the board is initial phone call. Then it's going to be first visit, initial evaluation. Then it's going to be progress note or check-in, right? Checking out quality. Then you're going to discharge, and then you're going to reactivate, and then it just kind of goes around and around and around and around. So kind of like mapping that out, and then building the sales and the communication strategies that are necessary in those touch points that ultimately lead to higher compliance and word of mouth referrals. So actually asking your team during the progress note, like, hey, Cliff, how are things going? I see your shoulder's getting a lot better. I'm curious, who do you know that would benefit from the type of therapy?
Yeah, just simple as that.
Yeah, we said the same thing. It was like,
Actually, my pastor at the church is really, tell me what's his name? Like what's the best way to follow up with him?
we would say the same thing.
Every single progress note.
Every time. Yeah. And we were like, who else do you know that's in pain? I mean, that's a pretty blanket statement.
Yeah. People come on with about 10 in about 5 seconds.
Well, especially with your demographic, if you're saying a lot of your 40% of your people are 65 and above, I mean, everyone on their street is in pain probably. Yeah. Anyways, but we would start like that because it's funny. You've probably had patients like this. They're like, they would see someone else getting worked on. Oh, I didn't know you worked on ankles. I didn't know. I had people ask me as I'm working on their shoulder, oh, I didn't know you guys worked with low backs. I'm like, well, yeah, that's making niche to their patients. And so we made it very generic to ditto what Adam said. We followed the exact same thing. We expected our teams to ask for referrals, and this wasn't just the providers. This was the front desk as well, right? And then we tracked it, and we also incentivized them. So I don't know what you were doing, Adam, but we gave $20 gas cards for every referral that an employee received, and that patient came 3 visits. Then they got a $20 gas card.
I love that. That's cool. Yeah. Now, have you done any? I know this gets murky, but any type of incentive at all around patient referrals, meaning like when patients refer other.
Oh yeah, we used to give. I hope we're fine with it, but we would give movie tickets.
Okay.
Back in the day,
we did T-shirts a few times.
Yeah.
Get a T-shirt for a friend. Here's a T-shirt kind of thing.
Yeah.
But yeah, I think that our profession, maybe it's not just our profession, but business owners in general really underutilize our teams. There's these genius people walking around your place who have so much access to these patients. And if we could just get them focused just a little bit and rally behind like, hey team, we're going to generate 20 referrals this month internally. Let's do it. Who's got some ideas? You know what I mean? Like that is like the most powerful thing that, in my opinion, that you can create for a marketing system. And then eventually building out some strategy and putting somebody in charge of that. Like you are the internal referral, or you're in charge, right? And so like now you're going to train all the providers. We're going to add this to the onboarding and training process. And this is just how we do it here, right?
Mm-hmm. Yeah, there are a number of things that you can do, and we could go on for a while. As you're starting a program like this, it doesn't come naturally to most of your team members.
I was going to ask you if you push back. Or how you dealt with pushback.
So get this. One of my PTAs, we would invite her to come to doctors' lunches with us, and because we wanted the doctors to meet the people who are laying hands on their patients, right? And she would get super nervous, super sweaty, and she would almost be in tears. But then we brought up this program, and one thing she hated about our company, even though she loved our company, she hated the role playing that we made our team members do.
Role play is great.
I know, but we would role play this. We would role play this, like how to ask for a referral, right? How to ask somebody for a referral of a family or friend who's in pain. She ended up being our highest referral source by far. She could bring in 7 to 8 new patients herself per month.
Wow.
Just by asking for, and you know what she started doing when she was, we also kept track. If they were going to ask a patient for a referral, we had a spreadsheet that they'd write the patient's name, the name of the family or friend that they were going to refer, and the provider who asked for it and on what date. And that way, as we're tracking incentives, that was important. But she would go back when there was downtime, she would go back and find those lists and call those patients after they were discharged, like 2 or 3 months later, and say, hey, following up on you, how are you doing? How's your shoulder? Is anything else hurting right now? Or do you need to come back in for a checkup? And so she just tried to recapture them. And then she'd say, hey, by the way, you mentioned so-and-so was hurt. How are they doing? Do they need to get in? What's their phone number? Shall I reach out to them? She was a master, right? And this is the same woman that was in tears to go talk to doctors, right? So she did amazingly well. And honestly, she probably went a full year without paying for her own gas because of our incentive program. Seriously, I'm not kidding. Yeah. So getting your team to be a part of this can be a huge boon. And like Adam said, it kind of brings a culture together, and you make a game out of it and you set goals and that kind of stuff. And it even goes back to one of my conversations with a digital marketer in particular. He said, if I'm coming into a clinic and they are not currently actively texting or emailing their past patients, he's like, I'm going there first. I'm not talking to them about digital stuff because I know that's going to get the greatest impact the fastest. I can turn on Facebook ads and I'll probably get them some questionable leads because Facebook ad conversions aren't the best. But if I can go directly to their past patient list and send out a text that we're doing consults, free consults for Mother's Day, bring your mothers in or that kind of stuff. He's like, I know, boom, I'm going to get some responses immediately. And it's the cost of a group text.
Right.
Right. So there's a lot you can do with your current and past patients, email programs and you name it, sending out flyers. There's all kinds of things you can do. You just get creative with it. And that's something that maybe this marketing specialist can also give you some guidance and direction on as well.
Yeah, I've already kind of teed up that, just like I said to you guys, I feel like there's just a massive chasm in terms of where we're at right now to where we really could and need to be in order to leverage our current and past base. And so I planted that seed to have him think about creative ways to start solving that problem. But you guys are laying out some really simple and easy to execute on strategy around the exact same issue. So I really appreciate it.
Yeah, and it takes some effort to keep that vehicle going, right? Mm-hmm. So October is National Physical Therapy Month, right? Am I wrong? I think it's October.
That's right.
Right. And so that's a good time to play some of these games, like, get patients involved. Whoever refers the most friends and family this month gets the blank, and whichever team member is able to acquire the most referrals, using excuses like that. Charity drives and all that stuff can happen during National Physical Therapy Month, but making internal marketing part of it can be a fun part.
I like that idea. Yeah, I think it's a great opportunity.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, so I think as far as your marketing strategy, like it seems the digital side,
seem like you got it.
I mean, you're buttoned up more than most PT owners. But as you're developing that marketing strategy, okay, what are we doing for the physicians and what does that look like? Now, if you don't want to market to physicians right now, just be intentional about that and say that. That's part of your strategy. We're not addressing that right now. Let's come back around to it maybe in 2024 or something like that. And that's fine. But at least make that part of your strategy, right?
No, that it is an element. It
Yeah.
is me. Yeah.
Yeah, and how much money do we want to spend in these buckets, right? What percentage of our patients do we want to take out of these buckets or get from these different buckets and how much we spend? So I think there's, when it comes to building out that strategy, it's just paying attention to each one of those and giving them a proper strategy.
Yep. Can I ask one more? How much time? How are we doing?
We're over, but we can keep going. How much longer do you got, Adam?
I got to run.
Oh, yeah.
Shoot. We got to do round 2 then, because I've got other questions. Not talk too much.
Definitely, man.
This has been awesome. Thank you.
Well, it's great to have you, man. And we can definitely continue the conversation because we love to share. But there's stuff on the Facebook group regarding marketing to physicians that we just did. We just did a Facebook Live last week about it.
We also did one on clinical sales, and that was pretty in-depth. Mm-hmm. Yeah, I would definitely recommend building out your patient life cycle, all the touch points, and really kind of getting like, what can we do here? How can we go deeper during that phone call? How can we go deeper during that progress note? Like,
to build connection.
Like, let's turn that into a mini eval, like a sales question. What else is hurting? Who do you know? Like, you know what I mean? Like, let's really get and let's role play.
I like that.
Train your team, and that you'll be dialed in.
Yeah. Well, thanks for joining us today, Cliff. It was
man, I appreciate it, gents.
That was cool. All right.
See y'all later, guys.
Good.